Hello, I just wanted to see if I could just follow up on my last video on something which really uh, feels really meaningful to me, which is this sense of the place of the personal imagination and the personal inner world and its importance um, in magic and in spirituality, as I experience it anyway. I think that sense of having, in a sense, your own house in the imaginal world, your own little realm in the imaginal world, is really important. I think it's something which is essential. It's something which you need to protect and which you need to um, work with, because that's the real interface between your life and what is beyond. Yeah, and I think it's important to understand that, and I think it's important to not get kind of bullied really by other people or authorities into being told that, well, you're that thing is not important, or it's not real, in a sense. Yeah, whereas, say, the world beyond, and they will determine its structures and its rules and its laws, and they will say that uh, great beyond is somehow very is very easy to determine by them, yeah, and their tradition or what have you. Um, that's not the sort of magic which has ever really inspired me, to be truthful. I was inspired by people like Austin Osman Spare, who was an artist and who found very, really, some fascinating and wonderful ways of expressing his spirituality and his magic. I think that's really important. I really do. Um, and a little bit of that went into things like chaos magic, in that chaos magic gave you freedom, yeah, to form your own language, in a sense, magically. It's not that a world beyond doesn't exist. It does, um, but it, but your world can still be a world of freedom. You can still find this world of extraordinary freedom in this sort of intermediate zone, yeah. And funnily enough, what's closest to that intermediate zone in many ways is your own personal fantasies, if you can trace them deeply enough. Um, it's that which has this quality to it. And I think that's why areas which we termed left-hand path, or at least the kind of like circles I moved in, termed left-hand path, and we're thinking about Kenneth Grant's work here and that sort of side of things. Yeah, our understanding of left-hand path, not so much the sort of like the modern Satanism stuff, yeah, but that understanding of left-hand path. That was really interesting, and I think it has some of this to it. The thing is, we should be looking for freedom. We should be looking for creativity. We should be looking for our authentic individual way. That's what we should be doing, I believe. And I think that's going to be very important for everybody. And that's how I'd see it, really. But, you know, that personal house of yours in the unseen realm, that personal house of yours is important. And people will think that maybe it's capricious or it's just fanciful. Well, of course it's fanciful. It's from the imagination, and the imagination is an enormous thing for us, really. It really is. But that area, which is so often, it's so often dismissed as being kind of almost like too small, too mundane, too ordinary, rather like the sixth house and Virgo are in astrology, yeah. But this is actually the real stuff of your magical life, yeah. This is where you build from, you know, and you know, it might look like a little house, but it could be your own little flying saucer to go off wherever you want to, yeah. But the point is, it's your house, and it's important. And the language you develop there, you will find that there are spirits that will engage with your language, yeah. You will find them, yeah. And so rather than trying to fit yourself into a collective plan, yeah, you can instead go your individual way and find the direct path, yeah. As Austin Osman Spare said, straying from the path, I found it direct, something along those lines, yeah. So that's really what I'd like to say. I think it's tremendously important, you know. This is it should be a very exciting and enchanting part of magic, I think. And I think this is where we can find our way through things, you know. But anyway, I hope that's of some help to somebody, or at least of some interest. And see you soon. I just want to say as well, I think it's funny because a lot of that follows some of the same energy that sort of informed my much earlier life with the whole thing of punk happening, you know. There was definitely a creative energy that came through that time, much as there was in the sort of like in the late 60s, I guess, you know. But there was definitely an energy that came through things, which was creative and very direct. And it matches some of this. I think it's sort of like it matched what tried to manifest through things like chaos magic and that whole sort of like odd, funny psychic underground that occurred during the 80s. And how, you know, you got a lot of people who had read things like, you know, things about Crowley, Austin Osman Spare, they'd read Kenneth Grant, and it's like there was just this basically an underground of people who were essentially fans of this stuff, really, you know. I mean, to not be too kind of all serious about it, you know. We were all intently interested in this stuff and trying to find our own ways and doing our own experiments. And I think we kind of eventually found each other in various ways, in various formations, you know. I mean, with me, I found people at the Thelemic Symposia that were happening in Oxford by the kind of late 80s, yeah. So, but you could see that energy moving through things, and it was liberating things and allowing this individual much more idiosyncratic, eccentric kind of multitude of paths to just sort of like to start to manifest and come through people. And I think that was very exciting. It's really good to remember that it's these essentially upsurges of creative energy that underlies so much in spirituality and certainly in magic. Yeah, I think it's really important to remember that, and to remember that people didn't find their ways because they belonged to some august magical order or something. They found their ways because they were inspired by somebody or something. That's what drew people, and that's what's always spoken to people. And that inspiration, it is most essentially an individual experience. And I think it's a good thing to remember. It's a good thing to remember. And I'm really happy I went through those things, and it kind of made me the person I am, really, in a lot of ways. Anyway, that's all for today.